Hi, everyone. Today is January the 22nd. It's a bit early in the morning, and as you can see, there's actually sunlight coming through. Temperature is changing a bit here. It's going to get quite warm, actually, for the next week and rainy. But I wanted to put out a video today with a bit of housekeeping first, a bit of chores to update, and then three different pieces of what I'm calling traps within the soul trap. So ways that people who are studying soul traps are putting ways to actually trap themselves. So, first off, I've got some indications that there seem to be some people, pretty standard YouTube, once you get to a certain level, sort of pretending to be me in the comment section and wanting people to, click links, buy some service, I'm not soliciting for anything. I'm not out there trying to get any money from you. I'm not out there trying to get you to click any links. If I have links, if there's anything from my books or anything else, they're all in the description box. Anything else that's coming that seems anything like that, it's obviously not me. It's another reason for me to try to get together and get a new place for all of us to have our community conversation somewhere away from all of these platforms so that we can have our own private place and we can discuss things amongst ourselves privately. So it's moving on my to-do list, but I just need you to know that. There'll be some interviews coming up. There's none actually been posted. I've done a few this week, but they're not actually posted yet, and there's a bunch more coming next week. So once they are, they'll just go on my interviews page, but so far there's nothing new yet, but there's more in the works. Audiobooks are getting close. I decided to read the audiobooks myself finally. I got to the point where I tried a lot of different options, and it just didn't sound any better than me. So putting that over the next 2 weeks to get done so I can check that off on the to-do list. Emails for people. A lot have been coming in lately, I guess, because of various interviews. And as you can guess, there's a lot going on. So if you do send an email, by all means, go ahead, but be okay that you might not get a response, or if you get one, it might take a month or two down the road. And just a reminder, I'm not a healer. I'm not a psychic. And I'm not going to really offer you specific suggestions on what to do. And I get people are in challenging situations, but I share what I consider my research and my knowledge and my books and my videos. That's why I make them. And then it's up to you to take that information and find how you can apply that to yourself, find how you can take that in the process of going within. It's all about going within, right? It's all about finding your own answers. And I've certainly been there. When you're in a difficult situation, you're looking for an answer right now. And sometimes answers don't appear until you've really gone within, known yourself more, found more things that you need to transform within. And then all of a sudden the answers start to appear outside of yourself. So I'm just letting you know that's just so you have that update on the email front. Okay. So the three things I want to talk to you today about are 5D, this being in my authority, and a bit of historical building. So first, 5D. This is going to be, I think you're going to be seeing this more and more and more in all communities. It's mostly been a fairly standard spiritual new age idea, this thing that we are moving into this wonderful new frequency, this wonderful new place, this 5-dimensional consciousness. It's going to all be so wonderful. And it's a message that sold a lot of books. It's a message that's going to start coming out more and more, because as this world begins to get more horrible and insane, that's what's going to happen. We're not anywhere near the peak of where this is going. This is going to just be exploding soon into craziness. And this 5D idea in different ways will be presented more and more. And you're going to start, I'm seeing it also in some soul trap people who are also discussing, but once we get to this 5D place, things will be better and we'll be able to see more clearly. And 5D is another drop in the simulation. 1D, one-dimensional, is out. Two-dimensional is already in the simulation. 3D, 4D, 5D, that's just deeper and deeper and deeper in the cave, deeper and deeper and deeper in the matrix. And like I say, as things get crazier and crazier, you're going to get different options. One will be, well, this world is so bad to live in. If you just come into our alternate reality and live in there, just stay in your little pod, you're not going to be allowed to go outside anyway. You're not going to be allowed to travel outside your home. You're not going to be able to have a car. You're not going to be able to do anything. So just stay in here anyway. And then you won't even be in this reality at all. You'll be in this wonderful place. A lot of people will choose that because this will be so difficult for them. Others will probably, who are more in the spiritual community, will literally be tricked into thinking that they're being taken to some other realm or some sort of special portal is going to be open for them and they can move to this other dimension. It's all going to be a giant trick. I mean, that's what's going on now. The reset that's happening now, and it's happening. It is happening, and it's going to happen. It's just a question of how long is it going to take? What's the depth it's going to take? How many are moving in with it? That's all. That's the only question to ask. And it's all about preparing the human body and the human mind for this next layer of the simulation, because this layer of the simulation is ending, right? This is done. This is finished. And a new trap is being generated. All the traps of the one we've known for a long, long time, for how many reincarnation cycles, ending. New one is coming. A new layer. And you actually have to, it'll require different bodies, a different type of awareness, different type of mental structure. So that's part of what's going on now. It's all a giant, you have to see what's going on as a much bigger and bigger and bigger thing. The more simplistic you try to see what's going on, like I mentioned before, if you think it's all about money and you think it's all about governments, you've already missed the big picture. It's like 10 times bigger than that, 100 times bigger than that of what's really going on. And the bigger picture you see of it, the more you will be able to make the right decisions about it when it gets pushed in your face. So that's the first thing, like this whole 5D ascension, we're going into this wonderful realm, everything's going to be fantastic, is obviously, given that that's not what this realm is, that's not what this material, insane Plato's cave is all about. It's not going to get better. So you know that. It's never been that way, and it's not going to be. The next one I see, and this is more common. I see this from a lot of channels, and it's a whoa, my picture's going from black and white to color, I guess because of the changing light. Is this idea of I'm staying in my own sovereignty and I'm going to be making all my own decisions. And yes, that's a valuable and important part of the process, which is to let go of authority of something outside of yourself and take the power within. Yes, that's step one. The problem is when I hear so many people indicate, and that's what I'm going to do after I die. When I meet these beings or these archons, I'm telling them that I'm in charge and they're not, and that's all I have to do. And these people are not really getting that the astral realm and dealing in the astral realm is not going to be anything like it is dealing in the material realm. They're not the same, right? They're the kind of particularly logic and clear thinking that are available in the material realm. That's one of the small values of this place, is the actual ability to logically and critically think. You seem to lose that in the astral realm. That it requires a tremendous amount of preparation to be able to have certain parts of your mental body which connect here into this realm. They don't naturally connect in the astral realm. So there's a huge amount of work even that has to prepare that. And if you want to contemplate how difficult it's going to be, think a bit about when you're dreaming. I had a dream last night. I'd been talking about a banquet back when I was a comedian years ago. And one of the banquets I did was with Phil Esposito, and the two of us had I had some interactions and stories from when I was 6 or 7 years old. His parents and him grew up in the same town that I did and whatever. So I'd actually had interactions with him, and that came out in the banquet. And in the dream last night, I was at another banquet with Phil Esposito, and I forgot to bring a tie. Whenever I'm doing a banquet, whenever I was doing, as a banquet speaker, I was always in a suit and tie. I had the suit, but I didn't have the tie. And this should have instantaneously, along with somebody as soon as I got there, gave me a whole bunch of ice cream. I don't eat ice cream. And all of these things should have indicated right away, like something is wrong with this scenario. There's something just wrong with this. Oh, I'm in a dream. I'm not actually in normal reality. Get lucid with what's going on here. But as we dream, 99.99% of the time, we get sucked into the dream. We believe the dream and what's happening is real environment, and we treat it as if we are in our material body. But as an example, I didn't have the critical thinking of, I noticed I don't have a tie. This is a problem. I started moving into the feeling aspect of it, right? The concerns of not having a tie and what that's going to mean for me, as opposed to, wait a minute, I would always have a tie when I come to a place like this. Something is extremely wrong here with this world. We lose that critical thinking. So anyone who thinks they're just going to walk into the after death state and be in perfect critical thinking mode automatically because I'm in my authority, I'm sorry, you're not. I think you're going to be mistaken. And I think that's a place where now we open up the deception, critical thinking, and the ability to really be able to actually stay in our authority and actually make our own decisions. That's valuable, but we have to be prepared that it's not going to be like it is here. And if you're not doing the preparations for how you're going to actually access your material state in the astral realm, I don't think it's going to work. So I'm just presenting that out there again for some of you who are building your own package of what am I going to do in my preparations. That's one to really think of. I agree with the concept. I agree with the importance of it, but you have to be able to put that into play in a different part of Plato's cave, in a different part of the matrix than the one you're in now. The practice you do here is fine, but how are you practicing for it there? So I'm just putting that out. The third thing I want to share today, it comes from the video I did with Dr. Tom Cowan. And I talked about the World Fairs with him for the first time on that subject in like 6 or 8 months. But he's moving into some really interesting areas of research. And like I say, I like Tom, so I did the interview with him. And it was helpful because when I watched the comments and I watched some of the things that came out from it, I realized, and history is an important area to study, just like almost any area within the dream, there's value to it. The question always becomes, what are you studying? And I began to notice again, the focus is on the buildings. Who built the buildings? How did they build them? What time frame were they done? Who was the civilization? And I got caught up in that too when I wrote the book and talked about it originally, because it is such an interesting part of the story. It's an interesting, massive question that theoretically needs to be answered. But the problem is that area of study, who built buildings? How did they build them? Don't apply now. Though that applied 5 or 10 years ago when the world was relatively stable and things were not ready to explode and implode in this reality, that's fine. People are missing the point of something like the World's Fairs. The World Fairs, what to study has not, the buildings are not important right now. Like right now, where we are, not important. What's important is what was going on in them, what were the events that were happening there, what was the information they were being presented to the public, and more importantly, the most important, is this the aftermath of a reset? Which it probably is on some level. What was the reset that happened? How did it occur? And what was the setup that created our new reality that we've lived in? That's important. That is critically important if you're going to study history, is to study, look for previous resets, because again, we're in one. It's happening right now. Whatever happened then, and I think there were a few in history, whether there was probably one in also like at the end of temple building time. There was one 10 or 20,000 years ago at the end of pyramid building time, that would have been the flood, the famed mythological flood that's in all myths around the world. That's that one. We have so it's like, can you go through mythology and pieces of history and track the resets themselves, track how those went, what happened during, before, after, and apply that now? Because that's the only thing that's important right now is is what is going on. Because if you're not seeing, at least to me, in my opinion, if you're not seeing where things are really headed in the next like 6 months to 2 to 3 years, that's maybe the time frame for, they try to throw out the year 2030, and I think that's a giant misdirection. They want everyone to think 2030, you got lots of time, don't worry about it, when the real number might be 2024, 2025. The time frame of this being completed is much, much shorter than anyone might think. And so because of that, if you're going to study anything, in my opinion, and it doesn't matter, you can study science, you can study philosophy, you can study religion, you can study the history of government, you can try to study the solar system, or whatever you want to feel like areas you want to get into, right? I mean, just studying it. Does it exist? Does it not exist? That's an area of study. But it's, how does it apply to now? If you're just studying something to answer some questions, that doesn't matter, actually. It doesn't matter for given what's about to occur. And if a few certain researchers are correct that the whole realm is ending now, that literally this thing is going to stop and finish completely, and that what's coming is a deeper level of craziness, a deeper level of hell, actually. That the realm we've been at one hell level and we're dropping another one. I don't want to go into all the details of it. That's research for the upcoming book, and whenever I get to being able to present that in more detail, I'm still working on it. If any of that is true, then your research is important, it's valuable, but you have to, in my opinion, be focused on what applies now. And there's lots of things you could study, for example, in history, tons of stuff. But if it doesn't apply to how does that help understand what I and everyone else are going to be going through and are going through now, it's a wasted area of study. And that means to anything. Again, science, religion, philosophy, government, law, commerce, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't apply now, we're beyond the period of time where you had free study. If this was 1990, study whatever you want, whatever interests you. Great. You got tons of time where nothing major is going to be thrown at you. Probably life is just going to go on a fairly continuous horizontal phase, and now we got into the rocks moving, and all of a sudden it's about ready to go. So the study of what's important is key. And now, to me, I see that anyone focusing on this historical stuff and focused on the buildings and who built them and when and why and all that, it's an area of study. But in a year or two from now, you'd probably see that was a wasted amount of time. If you were studying what was going on, what was the message that was being presented, and what was the potential reset that happened, didn't happen, went through. I mean, those are the questions to answer. Those are the questions to understand so that you can look at today and know what's going on. So 5D, really start understanding what's going on. I mean, we are in deception land. I'm going to leave you with this, right? This whole setup of reality is one giant deception. And once we were dropped into matter, because at one time divine souls weren't in matter, we were more in we were just in the astral and etheric realms. And when we finally got dropped into matter, the level of deception took another jump, another level of, right? And once that occurred, the deception levels increased as well. So it's a reminder that we're looking always for deception. And we know that it's everywhere. We're looking to see how we're constantly being deceived so that we can see through it and stop the deception. Thanks again, everyone. Remember, there's no soliciting coming from me. Reminders about the interviews, emails, whatnot. And that's just what I want to share with you today. Thanks again for looking into my books and my programs, and audiobooks are in the process of being done. And I'm in the process of finding where we can go so that we can have a community away from everyone else so that the conversation can be deeper and more complete and more interaction with each other than the platforms we have now. But that's coming. Thanks, guys.